Your Excellencies, ICDE President Dr. Neil Fasina, ICDE Secretary General Dr. Tarun Gilspik, to all the invited guests and speakers, friends, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a very good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. I am very honored to be standing in front of you today, albeit virtually, in the ICDE's President's Forum 2020. Today is a historic day because despite the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown, we are still able to meet and share our knowledge on how technology can be used and collaboration and learning can be fostered. The gathering today is very timely as the world struggles with the immediate shift to online and distance learning. Teachers and learners alike are in this situation, but it should also be considered as a silver lining as COVID-19 pandemic has mainstreamed the use of online, distance learning, blended learning, flexible learning modalities, which used to be a choice and a supplemental learning methodology for many of the countries of the world. Southeast Asia is happy to be part of this global conversation in addressing issues and challenges brought by these impactful learning issues in the region due to the COVID-19 upheavals. This morning, I will be discussing important points. First is I will share how the ministers of education from 11 Southeast Asian countries have responded to the challenges brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. And second, I'll be sharing the reopening strategies. And lastly, I will share the steps that we are undertaking in Southeast Asia as we prepare, hopefully, for a better normal. The future remains challenging to Southeast Asia, especially in these unprecedented times. It affected our GDP growth forecasts, and also countries will bear a lot of economic losses. For instance, the supply chain disrupts due to the lockdown measures, which are affecting many of our countries in the region. On merchandise trade, notably Singapore, Vietnam, Cambodia, and even Thailand. The temporary closure of public places have weighed on services, especially on tourism in Southeast Asia. And countries who are reliant on remittances, such as the Philippines, are being hit hard due to declining remittances from overseas Filipino workers in terms of consumption and in terms of investment. These are the contexts where ministries of education of Southeast Asia found themselves in. Due to lockdown, schools were closed, ministries of education teachers need to continue the innovation, starting with transitioning from the traditional to the face-to-face and alternative learning modalities. In terms of COVID-19 responses, ministries of education now fully activated the flexible learning modalities, home-based learning, and maximization of online learning, including the development of self-learning modules for learners, and even utilizing radio and television as forms of alternative learning. Ministries of education in Southeast Asia have all responded to the challenges brought by the COVID-19 pandemic. They launched online learning system, the circuit breaker strategy of Singapore, the push for distance learning using online offline blended for Indonesia. We also have whole nation approach of Brunei Jerusalem, the establishment of Center for Digital Education of Cambodia. We have from Lao PDR the use of alternative learning modalities, including the delivery of learning modules, the digital learning platform, and the flexible learning strategies of Malaysia. We also have the development of online learning alternative system for Myanmar, the Thailand education ecosystem model of TE2S, the learning continuity plan for basic education of the Philippines, educational application and SMS-based learning strategies for Timor-Leste, especially reaching the marginalized learners. These are all the strategies used during the COVID-19 pandemic that we have never imagined before. Vietnam utilized open educational resources and have broadcasted their very good video lectures to of teachers and materials in almost 28 TV channels. Despite all of these interventions, more needs to be done to ensure that no one is left behind, that education for all is really for all. Ministries of Education also face these challenges for safe reopening of schools. And we have almost 100% of the countries reopened with safety protocols, with rehabilitation strategies, and continuously doing resurgence planning in this type of COVID-19 pandemic situation. Social distancing policies, health and sanitation protocols, availability of temperature checks, and disinfections were introduced in almost all schools and workplaces. Massive information dissemination campaigns were also undertaken, and critical gaps for assessment, remediation were also undertaken to ensure that curriculum and lessons designed are actually delivered. Let me end my presentation by sharing some key takeaways from the COVID-19 discussions from the ministry level. That first, learners and teachers should be equipped, empowered to use technology and other alternative learning modalities during school disruptions. And there is no one size fits all that will work for all the 11 member countries of SEAMEO. But this is due to the wider context, operationalization, infrastructure support. These are really different. Thus, a contextual approach is the way to go to ensure that even in the farthest, the disadvantaged, and those in the marginalized border areas are reached by different interventions. Lastly, there is only one way to move forward together, that is to continue to collaborate and strengthen our strategic partnership so that we can bring all in and learning will continue. This has never happened before, but our common goal is to work together closely and amplify our strengths through collaborative and strategic partnership. I am confident that ICDE and SEAMEO Secretariat will triumph over all of these difficulties, and with all of you universities from all over the world. We can do our share, we can contribute whatever we have and make a difference. Thank you very much, and may you enjoy the discussions on this very fruitful learning and sharing time. Have a good day, everyone.